Hey guys, Stealth here and welcome back to Ultimate Admiral Dreadnoughts. It is weekend and that means that I'm doing one of the scenarios from the Naval Architects. They're a special tier of Patreon supporters who can send in a scenario and that scenario is almost guaranteed to get featured. Now, the scenario from today was sent in by RagnarTheRed. It is 1945 and World War II has finally come to a close. However, peace has been fleeting. The United Kingdom, in sight of their dying empire, has taken aggressive and expansionary action in Europe and across the world in order to potentially revive their dying empire. The US has sent multiple warnings and grievances to the British delegation, but recently negotiations were cut off. War has once again broken out with the United States initiating War Plan Red in order to curb the British expansionism. Send the new Atlantic fleet out to fight and cripple the British fleet in order to secure the maritime dominance. Now, the scenario mandated that I have 2 battleships, 2 heavy cruisers, 4 lights and 4 destroyers. But since this is Ragnar's first time sending in a scenario and he doesn't have the game himself, he has allowed me a pretty high leeway in what to put on the enemy fleet. He says, it's up to you. Make it as you see fit. Now, considering that the British only get access, at least currently in Alpha 9 version 7.8, to the N3G3 hull, they don't really have a super battleship the way that the US does. So that means that I'm going to allow them an extra battleship. I'm also going to allow them an extra heavy cruiser, and I am going to give them the same amount of light cruisers and the same amount of destroyers. Whether this will result in a successful fleet action for the British, of course, remains to be seen. You never quite know what the AI is coming up with for both my fleet and theirs. But I can control what I build with one ship class, and that will be the battleship. I'm going to make something that sort of resembles an Iowa, at least in armament and displacement, and see if the Iowa class is capable of taking on a couple of potentially fairly similar British battleships. Now, before we get any wrong expectations, I said Iowa-like, which means it's not going to be an Iowa exact copy. I have an Iowa game out there, an Iowa video, so if you want to get a look at a video or a ship that is relatively close to the Iowa, then I would recommend that video, and it should be appearing on screen right about now. That is going to be more along the lines of what you want to see. Now, I'm going to give the newly found Washington class a 60,000 ton displacement. I'm going to give her long range, just so we get to use the range slider for a bit, and maximum bulkheads. Engines, well, it's pretty straightforward. I don't have a budget, so geared steam turbines it is. Oil, I think with this kind of speed I will need forced boilers, and I'll use an auxiliary turboelectric drive. Engine shaft. I do like my turning circles a lot. And having this thing, especially in tandem with this one, puts my turning circle at a mere 600. Which is quite good for a ship this size. Okay, let's start building the ship out. I'm going to go with, I think an ABX turret. That should put me at a decent amount of firepower. But I'm going to make them slightly more powerful than the Iowas originally were. I'm going to give them 17-inch guns. 17-inch triples. These have... oh crap, it doesn't quite fit this way. These have slightly more firepower when compared to the 16-inch guns. They're also a fair amount heavier than the 16-inch guns. Fortunately, the offset is not that bad. 0.1%. Now, let's install a mega funnel, allowing for the exhaust and intake. Rangefinder, radar. You know what, I might have to up the displacement a bit. Well, that helps. Barbette thickness, anti-torpedo blister, double bottom hull, all or nothing armor. Whoa! Not an all or nothing armor scheme then? Citadel armor is really heavy. That's 3,000 tons. That's quite a lot. Does that have to do with the range? Not even. Might be the 17-inch guns. The 16-inch triples weigh 2874. The 17s weigh 3348. So it's about 600 tons per turret. Times 3 is 1800 tons. So it shouldn't be that bad. No, it shouldn't be that bad. Let's give them a bit more displacement then. Let's give them about 65,000 tons displacement. With the range slider as it is implemented right now, it's still pretty hard to get it exactly to 65k. I would still really like it if they managed to just allow me to type in a number there. Oh, hold on. At 66,000, we're jumping to a larger hull form. Okay, 66. Yeah, 66 seems to be the limit. 65. Screw it. 65, 750. Okay, a couple of secondary guns on there as well. A couple of 5-inch duels. Really handy weapon systems in order to deal with almost any kind of threat. Of course, cruisers are still going to be a problem. They're really not that impressed with a 5-inch battery, but destroyers and light cruisers really don't like these. I have a little bit of displacement left, and I'm actually going to consider just reducing my turret rotation power. Although that is not really the thing that's driving up my displacement. Maybe it's the speed. Shifting it down to 32 knots helps a little bit. But actually not as much as I'd hoped. What about the engine shaft? Or propeller shaft? The propeller shaft's 300 tons. Okay, never mind. That's not worth it. Heavy shells. It's going to add another 300 tons. Can I get 8-inch turrets somewhere? Not really. Not really. The hull's not really designed to pick up any really larger, or well, let's say not really larger, but fairly large turrets like that. 65, 394, and I don't have any armor added yet. Let's go for 16-inch turret armor and a bit more conning tower armor. I'm hoping that 14 is enough. Hydrophone station would be great, but it's probably going to make the ship way too heavy. I'll need to rely on other ships to spot the torpedoes for me, which shouldn't be that much of a problem. I think that can get done. These only have a range of 6. The triple 3-inch have a range of 8. That helps. But the ship's a bit too heavy now. There we go. Okay, I think that should do it. This is the Washington-class warship. Triple 17-inch armament. A supporting armament of 10 5-inch barrels per side. And then a bunch of 3-inch and 2-inch guns to make sure that destroyers don't get any really fancy ideas about sinking this ship. Don't approach the Washington. What did the AI cook up for their battleship? That's going to be an interesting part of this scenario, as it will determine quite a bit about their firepower. Seemingly a slightly older design. Not necessarily a worse one. Look at what they did here. Turret on the deck, turret on the barbette. Another barbette with a secondary, and another tall secondary barbette with what could be as large as an 8-inch. Interesting design. What these ships will probably have over me is rate of fire. The rate of fire is probably better than mine. Alright, what other ships did I get? Heavy cruisers Helena and Olympia, which are not that sturdy, unfortunately. They have quadruple, actually, 4 9-inch turrets. 2! Really? 2 single barrel supporting 3-inch? And a couple of 2-inch. Oh, great. Okay, well these things are going to have to take over the role of killing cruisers while the battleships are engaging their battleships. Moving on. Light cruisers. I thought I had 4, but I'm only seeing 3 in this div. Where's number 4? here. Concord. Join Division 3, please. Light cruisers, Concord, New Haven, Miami, and Cabot. These light cruisers come with few bulkheads. Oh no. 7-inch guns. And exactly one dual supporting 3-inch. Sonar 2. That's decent. Sonar 2 on the heavy cruisers as well. And then we got the light cruisers. Oh, sorry, the destroyers. The Adams, the Farquhar, Chung-hoon, and Rodman. That's the only thing that sounds remotely American. Torpedo-wise, minimum bulkheads. Right. I think the Iowas or the Washingtons are going to have to pull a lot of weight here. The Washington and the New Jersey. These things come with minimum bulkheads. Torpedoes at a range of 12.9. Very sneaky. Minus 70% visibility. So I can use that to try and ambush the fleet. I first need to ensure that everything is in the same div, though. So we got div 5 and div 4. You're going to join. Right, now that I have all the DDs in a fleet, or in a division, how am I going to play this battle out? How is the fleet positioned relative to the enemy fleet? We're moving away from the Brits. The Brits are supposedly also moving away from me, I think. Yep, they are. Speaking of their ships, this is a destroyer. Lots of funnels. I don't know if the AI actually has any kind of logic when it comes to funnels. Sometimes it seems like they just tack on a whole bunch. And, well, I don't know if it's required. Because forced boilers usually mean that you don't need this many funnels. But hey, it's the AI, it's their designs. Go for it. A couple of torpedo tubes. We can find a assumedly heavy cruiser here. Lots of secondaries. Look at that. I think those are 3s. And 8. Yeah, 8 main armament. 8 barrels. Then this is probably going to be another heavy. And we need to find the light cruisers. This is not it. Is this a light cruiser? Yeah, it might be. Might be. It's a different design. That might be the light cruiser. Anyway, we're all heading away from each other. Look at this ship firing. That looks really spectacular. We're all moving away from each other. I'm going to sort of shoot over my shoulder with the Washington and the New Jersey. So we're going to turn that way at a speed of 26 knots. And we're going to have the heavy cruisers form as a screening force, although I'm not too happy generally with the way that the screening formation works. That's my problem with them. The DDs are going to have to line up somewhere else. I'm just not even sure who's the leader here. Hello? Who's the boss of the DDs? Oh, the Farquhar. Okay. You're going to turn that way and we'll see about maybe cross-torping that whole group. Light cruisers currently set to not do anything in relation to the battleships. I want you to follow then. Follow Division 1. Okay, guys. Prepare to fire. Washington and her 17-inch guns turning over to starboard. Getting ready. First salvo. Looks good. 6% chance to hit already. That's pretty impressive. One thing that my heavy ships or my battleships don't really have that much of is armor. That could be a problem. Wait, one. Why are you not actually following this div? Div 3? Div 3. Pay attention. Follow New Jersey. Thank you. Rodman is still trying to figure out where it belongs in the world. So it's probably going to try and fight both the light cruiser and the battleship for position. Hoping to rejoin the brethren over there. We've already done a little bit of damage. Interestingly, with a 9-inch gun. So one of my heavy cruisers is opening up successfully and doing some damage. Now the range from the heavy cruisers to the closest target is 17 clicks. which means that we might be able to hit them. And judging by the angle, that could be a deck penetration. If it hits, of course. Battleships. Please focus down the enemy battleships. That should be your target. Instead of rushing in, as I normally do, I'm going to just stay at range for a while. And see if I can do some damage from all the way out here. In the meanwhile, the Olympia has taken a hit. 48 points of damage. That was a 9-inch return fire, probably from a heavy cruiser. Oh, crap. It's not rocket science. If you're a battleship, you take priority formation-wise over everything else. Hang on, I gotta sort out this mess. You're gonna go that way. You're gonna just detach. You're gonna go that way. Light cruisers are trying to catch up behind the New Jersey, but finding it very difficult to figure out what the hell the New Jersey is doing. And it's not just them that are finding it hard to figure it out. Follow the atoms. You, Adams, you need to be joining the FARQR. Which is what group? Ah, okay. Rodman, join Div 4. Chung-hoon, join Div 4. We're gonna head that way. New Jersey, hopefully, can still rejoin the formation of the Washington. But I think it's going to run into a couple of light cruisers here. At the same time, I suppose that this makes my ships very unpredictable. Because if I don't even know what I'm doing, how the hell is the AI supposed to know what I'm doing? We're gonna kind of run over the Concorde here. Or just about. Concorde, out of the way. We have places to be and ships to shoot. Okay, New Jersey maintain... No! Don't do that. Know your place. New Jersey should assert a bit more dominance as far as it comes to just taking up its own position. Look at this! Cabot, Miami, New Haven, Concord. It's a very close formation, even when they're set out to loose. Oh. Fun was had by all, especially the ships crashing into each other. Look at this. This is some sort of cruiser group hug? Yeah. The division system is still one that I take a bit of trouble with. Take a bit of issue with. Anyway, how are we doing for identifying the fleet? A destroyer is coming closer to the rest of the group. Ranging 20.4. 50% ID on the battleships. 58 there. DDs. How are you guys for joining up? Pretty decent. Pretty decent. Where's that fleet going? I think I need to just try and cut into them. And then maybe from position of here, as they're moving that way, I torp that way. And I torp cross-directional. What are we trying to hit? A heavy cruiser? No, we're not. I want you to hit this guy. That's what I'm thinking is their battleship. That's what I want to hit. Oh, it looks like one of my ships took a bit of a scratch. 16-inch guns, doing some damage to the Washington. Understood. Formation tight. I just don't know if the New Jersey is going to be able to keep up with the Washington. Yeah, Washington's going to slow down to 25 knots. New Jersey is speeding up to reach 32 knots so she can get closer to the Washington. The light cruisers have seemingly unfucked themselves and are now slowly but steadily starting to follow the New Jersey around. And Helena and Olympia are still operational as a screening force. Really good. Now this DD is getting all sorts of weird ideas. If you are a DD. No, you're not a DD, are you? I think I classified this as the light cruiser. Not necessarily correctly. 17-inch hit. There we go. 171 damage, but the damage relative to the hit point pool is not that severe. Hold on, the Farquhar has been hit. We still have a long way to go before we can torp. I want you guys to be in a normal formation. We're just gonna spin a little. There, I just want to keep doing donuts with the destroyers. Very American. And see if these guys can join up a bit closer. Then break out of my donut. And start bringing out the torpedoes. Helena and Olympia are trying to keep the light cruiser here at bay. Let's hope that the light cruisers of the enemy are not built too strongly either. There we go. Light cruiser Borossa. Minimum bulkheads. They're not that tough. 6-inch guns. And torpedoes out to 9.9 with a pretty high visibility and high speed, 62.5. So that means that I'm still outside of their range, but they are coming in at a decent speed. The destroyers have been identified as well. We have the destroyer Prince. Many bulkheads and torpedoes which can hit me at 12.6, which means very stealthy. Electric running torps. Battleships 84, 87 and 88% identified. All I need to know now is what the heavy cruisers are up to. Standard amount of displacement, 9-inch guns, plenty of ammunition, and 22.3 kilometer range torps. 24-inch. This is not something you want to get hit by. I mean, you generally don't want to get hit by a torpedo as is, but when it's 24-inch, it gets significantly worse. Now, the DDs are absorbing all sorts of fire. Just giving them 5 degrees left rudder. So far, so good. The light cruiser over here, the Borossa, is taking a bit of damage from the 9-inch guns coming from the cruisers. But it's not just the 9-inch guns, I think. I think there's more striking this light cruiser, or at least more targeting this light cruiser. I'm thinking it's my own light cruisers. Oh, that's not good. These destroyers are not really meant to take hits, not at minimum displacement, or minimum bulkheads. Range of the battleships, 20. Okay, break out, increase speed to flank. If you still can. Smoke up. Should give you a bit more cover while we're trying to keep you guys alive. 12% chance to hit the battleships, and one of the battleships has been identified. It's the battleship St. Vincent, displacing 58,500 tons, firing at me with 16-inch guns, which are supported by a Generation 1 rangefinder and stereoscopic 3 rangefinder. Generation 1 radar is what I meant. Sonar 3, not fast, 23 knots only. Substantial secondaries in the form of 8-inch guns, lots of 8-inch in fact. That is 6 barrels of 8-inch per side, augmented with 6 mainline barrels, or centerline barrels. A couple of whoa, actually a lot of 7-inch casemates, and some 4-inch. That is not a ship that you want to approach if you're in a destroyer. It will mess you up. We also have Battleship Marlborough and Nelson. Chance to pen, 74. 74.2, and probably a bit less, 68.7. Okay. Just keep at it, gentlemen. Keep at it. And meanwhile, use your secondaries against the Borossa. Although you're probably just outside of range. No, the 5-inch are in range. Let's try not to get torpedoed. And keep the fleet a bit farther away. What I'm trying to do is keep the destroyers safe by moving away from the light cruisers while still drawing their fire. So that the light cruisers are going to get punished by the why do we keep calling battle cruisers? By the heavy cruisers, which are currently working them over. It's going to take a bit of time, though. They're not very sturdy. A couple of floodings will sink these things fast. And once these light cruisers are done, it's going to be a bit safer to approach. Because there are also plenty of heavy cruisers which would very much like a word with my destroyers. I'm not really interested in an open-hearted conversation between the destroyers and the heavy cruisers. Because I think that conversation is going to go all sorts of sideways. Are these light cruisers still... Yeah, they're still pursuing. They're still closing. Or, well, not closing, but still maintaining their distance to New Jersey. Formation, normal. Barossa taking a decent amount of damage, but no flooding yet, surprisingly. Even though she is being focused by most of my ships. DD range... 13, very good. The battleships are heading away from them, but the battleships can only do 23 knots. So, that means that I can catch them. Because I can do, at best, 35 knots. But considering I've taken some damage, it's more likely that it's going to be 34 knots. And it looks like one of these light cruisers is going to flood really quick. Just let them run into my fleet. Barossa is not having a good time and trying to fall back, letting the Boadicea take the lead. I just need one more good pen on her stern, flood it a bit, and that should kill her. It's going all sorts of places except at the Barossa. Oh, Farquhar got hit. Pretty bad. What got you? Nah, one of the heavy cruisers finally made you take a few pretty damaging hits. Those things hit me at 20 clicks out. I gotta give credit where credit is due. That was an impressive hit by the heavy cruiser. What's the maximum firing range? Is that 23? 20.5. So you actually hit me at maximum range. Wow. That's not quite what I was expecting. Well played to them. In the meanwhile, we've inflicted a decent scratch on Marlborough. But other than knocking out... Wait, did we knock out 2 guns? Yes. She only has 1 turret left. Okay. In that case, switch fire to the St. Vincent. Because if I can knock out a few more turrets on the St. Vincent, I'll be able to just... not really have to spend a lot of time to kill the Marlborough, which is going to take me a while. I can simply knock out their guns. They have 16.5 inch on the turret, and that means that at a range of 17.6, I should be able to go through it, not taking into account the 118% armor quality that it has. So effectively 33, 34 inches of armor. That's substantial. And more than I can pen. Okay. Damage done, 2.2k. Damage taken, 412. We have a torpedo in the water. And it looks like the light cruisers are being the recipient. Or at least that's what they're trying. Boadicea is flooding. The Barossa has flooded. She's toast. More flooding on the Boadicea. And next is going to be the Porpoise. See, this is the problem with minimum bulkheads. There is a torpedo salvo. Here's another one. Hold on. Split. Detach. We're going to Miami, but Miami is going to run the torps. Cabot and Concord, hard to starboard. New Haven should do a full turn to port. At least a hard turn to port and then fully back to starboard. If I dance back to starboard now, I might make it. Miami needs to do a full turn and just go bow into the torps. Come on. This is not good. Yeah. That got me right on the rudder. And with few bulkheads, I'm not optimistic about my chances of surviving that hit. That's probably going to come at the expense of the New Haven. Let's see if I can neutralize the other light cruisers that they still have remaining. The heavily damaged Boadicea and the Porpoise. The battleships are holding perfectly steady. New Haven, 8% buoyancy, 4%, 6% going up, going down, and 0.9, 2%, 3%, she's done. Alright, we need to realign the light cruisers. So that'll be divisions 4, 7, and 6. Join division 7. Yep, that's it. Formation line abreast, formation normal. Push into the light cruisers and make sure that they sink. I think they might have just launched... Yeah, there they go. They just launched another salvo. Bring the whole formation in and avoid the torpedoes from the Porpoise. The destroyers at this point are effectively outside of the range of the battle. But with the very heavily damaged FARQR, I don't think that the division wants to go any faster. So let's just say that this ship's going to retreat altogether. Not that retreating in a scenario like this really yields anything, but it's more something that I feel is the right call. Looks like the St. Vincent has taken a couple of really damaging hits. And she hasn't really done any kind of serious damage in return. Even though, if she hits, she has a really good chance to pen against both Washington and the New Jersey. Those 16-inch guns can hit hard. Okay, Concord should be safe. Porpoise is not. I'm still one... Yeah, there we go, the Black Prince. The light cruiser Black Prince is holding all the way in the back. We also have the Prince and the Lewis. Range at 12-1. Now, if I focus fire on the Porpoise, I can sink it quickly. Flooding will kill her very fast. Just need to keep pushing into her and make sure I avoid any torpedoes that she might launch with, for example, a bow torp, a bow launcher, or port and starboard, because she has all of them. Because this one needs to go. Ricochet angle is really high for probably all the light cruisers. So we're going to switch to high explosive. Rip open a few more parts of the hull. And ensure the demise of the Porpoise. If I hit, that is. Come on. Hit. Shoot to kill. Cabot. Do you have slow turrets by any chance? Electrical turrets, you do not have slow turrets. Uh-oh. What kind of turrets do you carry? 62.5s, really fast. That's really bad news for the Porpoise. Oh, sorry, for the Cabot. It's really good news for the Porpoise. Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. Come on. A few more holes and she ought to go down. Yes, engine damaged. Flooding. She still hasn't launched that torpedo. Now she has. More turning. Nope. Oof. Cabot immediately sinks. But Porpoise sinks right after. Not soon enough, though. Not soon enough. Right now I've traded 2 light cruisers for 2 light cruisers. Which is not really a good trade. We're currently at 15 kilometers out from the battleships. No gun damage yet to the St. Vincent. Alright, Miami and Concord. Smoke up. And really put the screws on the Boadicea. We're pretty much facing a Boadicea that's bow in. So I'm going to stick to my high explosive choice here. With a couple of damaged and sinking ships between myself and the Boadicea, I'm hoping that she'll not be able to torpedo. Even if she's almost ready. We're also getting a lot of return fire from the rest of the fleet. So let's have the Miami and the Concorde disengage. And find their place back with the rest of the fleet. If the Miami doesn't sink outright, having few bulkheads. Fire on the Boadicea. I need more than that. You sneaky cruiser. She did launch her torpedoes. Just the one. But as we have seen with the other cruiser, it is one that she needs. She doesn't need to hit me with 3 or 4. One torpedo against one light cruiser will kill the light cruiser. In case you're thinking maybe you should be firing armor piercing at this range, I don't think so. I have a 68% chance to pen at this point. And these cruisers are so lightly skinned that I think currently armor piercing would just overpen. Plus, the armor on the Boadicea has already been seriously damaged. And all that I really need to do is open a couple of holes in the hull, cause a few instances of flooding. And that should do her in. She's putting up a fair fight though. And moreover, she's almost ready with that torpedo launcher. Switch to armor piercing, just to see what it does. Slow. The ship, once again, is outturning her turrets, even though these things are supposed to be electrical turrets. Which I believe is the fastest way that you can have them. There is a set of 2 torps coming out. Let's hope that the Miami can change her course in due time. Partial pen. Stern deck extended penetration. I'm spending a lot of time watching this whole fight, but I'm not sure this is where my attention should be. Target the Lewis, which has launched her torpedoes at a battleship. Not good. Increase the flank. Light cruiser Boadicea sinks, and the St. Vincent is taking a load of damage. But I'm also taking some damage. Just nothing too serious yet. These torpedoes were not 24, these were 20-inch. Okay. Right, Concorde, Miami. Make for best speed and try to rejoin the heavy cruisers. In the meanwhile, where are my destroyers at? I thought you guys were going to be in one division. Apparently not. Range 14.5. Which means that my odds of getting any kind of torpedoes out on, well, any of these ships are really not that good. Because we're not that likely to get into range at all. So the damage is going to have to come from Washington, New Jersey, Helena, and Olympia. And I want Helena and Olympia to put some more pressure on the destroyer here, the Lewis. Because I don't like her operating that close to the battleships. Chance to hit with the Washington has blossomed to 48%. Full salvo going out. Also from the New Jersey, 43% chance to hit. Can we get some more damage in enough to sink her? Oh yes. That really... There we go, that got her. That's one battleship less to worry about, and effectively 2, because the Marlborough only had 1 turret remaining. So I think it's time to switch fire to the Nelson now. And try to keep an eye on the torpedoes. But unfortunately, all my ships which are actually capable of spotting those don't really have the range to spot them. Seeing as I'm operating at 4-kilometer range. DD status? Are you guys getting subjected to enemy fire yet? No, the heavy cruisers are still focused on my battleships. which I really don't mind. Have we hit the other one yet? No, we're still locking in on the Nelson. Ooh, good hits on the Nelson. 17-inch slams into the mid-belt and the bow belt, penetrating both and doing a lot of damage and even causing some flooding, which will make the already slow Nelson even slower. Light cruisers, pretty good. Considering just slowing the whole group down a bit so the light cruisers have a chance to catch up. I would like to get my fleet in a bit more of a cohesive pattern. So I'm just going to turn these guys around. And I want you to once again follow the New Jersey. Jesus, you guys are taking tight formation really serious, aren't you? The ship's 200 meters behind you. How fast is New Jersey going? No. That way. Washington's traveling at 22.7. New Jersey traveling at 25. That's a bit fast, people. Both ships to 23.5, please. With the Washington going slightly faster, so that I get a bit more spread here. It unfortunately will take the Washington a bit of time to build up that speed. And similarly, it'll take New Jersey a bit of time to slow down. Now this... this is a really tight formation. Oh yeah, that's the... The Admiral ordered tight formation. Tight formation is what you'll have, sir. Yeah. Unfortunately, the New Jersey is taking quite a bit of damage now. From what very well might be the Nelson. What's hurting you? Yeah, Nelson's 16-inch guns are hurting. 25.3, 24.5. Increase speed. Reduce speed. The Nelson is getting beaten up real fast. She's still flooding. But unlike the light cruisers, I have a lot more faith in her damage control ability. Interestingly, the light cruisers, or at least the last surviving light cruiser, and the heavy cruisers aren't really joining this fight. Whereas my heavy cruisers are definitely trying to do some damage. They've done 690 and 915, which is probably a lot more than these heavy cruisers can say. Even though they have a pretty similar armament to my heavy cruisers. But I'm just deploying them in a different fashion. I'm keeping them really close to my battleships to try and screen and make sure that the enemy doesn't really have that much of smaller ships that can approach me. Whereas these guys are sitting behind... Well, they're just coming in front of the battleships. But for some reason they're not firing. And it's like the guns have been turned off. Otherwise this turret over here, the X turret, would be on target. It's just the 4-inch guns which are going off. 9-inch gun on the Niobe is working. 9-inch guns on the Orlando. Not working. Not firing, even though they... Oh, that was a torpedo. Even though they do have a decent accuracy. Curious. Alright, Washington, New Jersey, commence your turn to port. We have some torpedoes to evade. Helena, Olympia, maintain your follow formation. I'm trying to put the Nelson down because she still has all of her turrets. Fire against the Scimitar. This DD is getting awful close. Target the Wren, damage the main gun, and fire on the Nelson. The DDs are still trying to catch up. Rather unsuccessfully. Let's see if we can actually get into range of the Marlborough. 29% structural integrity remains on that ship. Washington and New Jersey currently both... No, it's just the Washington's flooding now. Put the secondaries on the Ren. We should have both the 5s and the 3s ready to hit that ship. Many bulkheads. She might not flood as quickly as I would like. Now we're going to turn back over to starboard. I hope that threw off the torpedoes enough. But there are a lot of heavy cruisers around that are not too happy to see me. Range is 7-8, and these were sneaky torps. Not super sneaky, but still harder to detect than I would like. Ren dies. That's one less. Nelson takes almost enough damage to sink her. That's a single torpedo. There's probably more. Yep. Come on, Nelson. Nope. All ships missed. Div 2. Formation. Speed 26 knots. We're going to once again turn to port. Uh-oh. Nelson dies. But I'm about to take a few torpedoes here. New Jersey takes 2. Washington probably takes 1. Yeah, Washington took 1 torp. These ships have a bit of torpedo blister, but it's not stellar. It's just a 3. So now we're using 17-inch guns against a heavy cruiser, and just look at the immense amount of damage that that did. It effectively cleaned off the whole ship with the bow. The whole bow is on fire. 2 engines are down. Ship's flooding in 4 compartments. That's what happens when the battleship has had enough of your bullshit. That might very well kill her. Let's see. Main guns. Shift Alt right click. New Jersey. Shift Alt right click on the Orlando. The reason why I'm splitting my fire here is so to not waste a lot of 17-inch shells just killing off one ship. Because I don't need that much. One good hit should be sufficient, as we have seen with the Diadem. And the heavy cruiser should be able to finish off the Diadem. Damn it, she torpedoed again. Now it is up to the Orlando to take the hit. Niobe is going to get targeted by Washington. Although the Diadem might be in the way of the shells. No, not quite. Whoa! Fantastic shot by the Washington. Hitting the ship with 3 shells and causing enough damage to immediately blow up the whole Niobe. Now we have spotted the torps and they narrowly were avoided by the Washington. New Jersey also managed to just about evade these, but not really by any action of mine. It just happened to be turning. Now we're working over the last 2 heavy cruisers. Ammo detonation on Orlando. All engines are down on Orlando. Can we steady out the ship before we run into torpedoes? I need you guys to start turning back to starboard. Because once the last heavy cruiser is down, we still need to make sure that the light cruisers and the destroyers die. Diadem. Full hit to the Diadem. 948 and 251 killing off the Diadem, but she did send out another salvo. I'm going to take manual control of New Jersey and turn her away, or rather into the torps. Because I don't know if she's going to be able to evade them otherwise. Orlando sinks due to heavy flooding. Now it is just the Prince, the St. Louis, the Black Prince, and the surviving Marlborough. And meanwhile, the DDs are still sort of ferrying around. Not really having contributed much, if anything, to this fight. Uh-oh. Level out. Heavy cruisers. We have a couple of destroyers that need to go. Battleships are using their main armaments to take down the battleship, and there are 5-inch secondaries to work over the destroyers. The destroyer Lewis fortunately has no more torps. Black Prince, similar. Oh, sorry, the Prince, similar. Black Prince still has torps. Scimitar also still has torps. So there might be more torpedoes in the water. But I don't really know. At least I was able to avoid all the torpedoes as of right now. Whoa. Good damage on the Prince. And with all that flooding and not enough bulkheads, that could easily sink the DD in a matter of minutes. More flooding, she's gone. Well done to the heavy cruiser Helena. Helena has taken 0 damage. She hasn't been shot at that much. Olympia has been shot at a lot more. And both of these heavy cruisers have really carried their weight. 1.2 thousand damage and 2,400 damage. The battleships, comparatively, Washington, 7.8 thousand damage. And New Jersey, also 7.8 thousand damage. With 562 taken by Washington and 741 taken by New Jersey. Pretty good designs by the enemy battleships, but I think they got a bit unlucky as they were getting... Well, at this point, all their guns destroyed? Really? Yeah, all the guns got destroyed on the Marlborough. How did I manage that? Because these are pretty potent... They're pretty beefy turrets. Range, about 10. I can penetrate 34.7 inches of armor. Yeah, that would do. That would destroy the turret. Even so, I'd say that the British are quite lucky that they didn't get any flash fires. Because that could have been disastrous for them. I'm not sure. I thought Scimitar still had torps. She had 8 and now she has none. Hold up. Looks like there's trouble ahead. Scimitar is going to have to really pay for that. Marlborough is flooding, but I think structural integrity will fail before the flooding actually sinks this ship. The heavy cruisers are now working on the Black Prince's demise. These heavy cruisers have done a lot of work. I like them. They're not that tough. Had they taken a couple of damaging hits from the battleship, it would have probably been really quickly to sink. Both Helena and Olympia. But 3.3 thousand damage for a heavy cruiser and 2.8 for the other one. That's good. That's really good. Black Prince. Nope. Maybe the 17 inchers are going to finish her off, although that is a bit of overkill. There goes the Marlborough. Structural integrity has failed, leaving just the Black Prince, which might find herself on the receiving end of a 17-inch shell. If she does, well, maybe it's for the best. Because at least it'll be quick. Quick and relatively painless. Whereas if you get cut down bit by bit by bit by 9-inch shell fire and 5-inch shell fire, I think that seeing all the guys around you die on the deck is a lot worse. So in this situation, it might be a bit more favorable to just get hit by a 17-inch high explosive and immediately lose the whole ship. Yeah. That was almost 4,000 damage. Courtesy of 2 shells from, I think, the Washington hitting the ship. And with that, the British have been put in their place. Hopefully they will refrain from any further expansive behavior, and they will know that it is not a good idea to pursue this expansionistic policy that apparently in this scenario they had going. Both of my Iowa-ish battleships performed really well, and, well, I suppose that the Americans are now the boss in the Atlantic. At least for now. That ends the scenario and the video. RagnarTheRed, thank you for sending it in. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you want to join the ranks of the naval architects, link down below in the description. And for the rest, I hope you have a good weekend. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you tomorrow for the next video.